I've spent quite a bit of time speaking on the phone to Centrelink. I've never had any outstanding debts and I've always had a clean credit rating. So I'm quite concerned about the impact that the debt will have on my financial future.
While at home in Hobart in January, Devi Barker received a message from a debt collector that shocked her. Devi was told she owed a debt of more than $7,000. When the debt collector demanded Devi pay up immediately and in full, she wondered whether it was a scam.
I felt quite stressed, especially when they said that my wages would be deducted and that I wouldn't be able to leave the country.
Thank you for calling the Department of Human Services Centrelink Debt Recovery.
It wasn't a scam. It was a so-called robodebt from 9 years earlier when Devi was at university and receiving youth allowance.
Please hang up and phone 1800.
Centrelink was demanding she repay the debt plus interest.
When I got in touch with Centrelink, they told me that I would need to provide bank statements and payslips to be able to disprove the debt. But when I went to try and get bank statements from the bank, they said that they don't hold records for longer than 7 years.
Devi asked Centrelink to review her case, but the debt remains. She's now being pursued by another debt collector.
I feel like I'm being made out to be a criminal. I recorded my hours in my uni diary and I was very diligent in reporting the correct hours, and I know that I don't owe Centrelink any money.
There are real legitimate concerns about false debts being raised or inflated debts being raised against people. It affects their credit rating and it affects their reputation.
What we're doing in the welfare system is strengthening it.
During the 2016 election campaign, the Coalition announced a welfare crackdown to claw back $1.5 billion over 3 years.
That we ensure the system does not have the leakage and have the waste and have the overpayments or the abuse of the system, which at the end of the day costs Australian taxpayers.
By the end of this month, the expanded welfare crackdown is expected to have recovered $579 million. Obviously, some debts to Centrelink are legitimate. The concern here is that robodebts cast the net too widely and put the onus on the individual to prove they don't owe any money.
It was a big shock finding out that the debt was that large, and it was stressful to be told that you owe that much money when at the time sometimes you weren't even making that much money.
Based in the New South Wales snowy mountains, Bianca Lane has a robodebt of more than $14,000.
I was on youth allowance because I just started studying. The nature of living down here is that a lot of the work is seasonal.
She spent months trying to gather pay slips from half a dozen former employers.
I was keeping track of exactly how many hours I did each day. There's always possibilities that I've made some mistakes. I'm only human, but I find it impossible that I would have a debt even remotely that large from it.
As she prepares to challenge the debt, it looms over her life.
I did have plans to travel and things like that as well. I want to start saving for a house. It's stopping me from doing a lot of things.
This is a classic robodebt for a number of different reasons. But
Catherine Boyle from the Welfare Rights Centre has looked closely at Bianca's case. She believes Bianca has a strong chance of having her debt wiped by Centrelink.
one of the errors made in this particular debt schedule is they're saying she worked for 2 employers, when in fact she just worked for 1. So that's effectively doubled her income. So that's a whole portion of the debt that shouldn't exist. There's
500,000 Australian citizens whose rights are being traduced and compromised by a scheme which is not lawful.
Professor Terry Carney presided over a handful of cases similar to Bianca's as a member of the Administrative Appeals Tribunal. He's come to the conclusion that the system of automated debt collection is fundamentally flawed.
Under social security law, the onus to prove a debt lies exclusively, entirely with Centrelink. And this system operates by shifting all of that onus onto the alleged debtor.
In the robodebt cases that Terry Carney heard at the tribunal, he claims the Department of Human Services, which oversees Centrelink, took extraordinary steps to avoid legal scrutiny of the system.
The department's conduct is abysmal. It's the conduct that you would expect of a tin pot third world country administration. Because at no stage does Centrelink ever seek to defend the unlawful basis on which it's raising those debts.
A lot of people who are on Centrelink and have received these debts are too nervous to speak out about it because they are receiving income support and they're relying on that income support. So because I have a job and I'm in a situation where I can speak out about it, I felt like I should.
Paying the amounts that were
730 asked Terry Carney to take a look at Devi Barker's robodebt.
Look, there may be a small debt, certainly not $7,000, and I'd be pretty shocked if the calculation, when the figures were correctly ascertained, came in over 1,000. So, on the face of it, this person is being asked to pay. It's a bit like the mafia saying, you owe me money. Do I have to prove that you owe me money? No, I don't. That, as people say, is what we usually say is extortion.
In response to questions from 730, the Department of Human Services said the Commonwealth Ombudsman had investigated and found it was reasonable and appropriate to ask people to explain discrepancies in data matching with other agencies.
We've helped over 500 people who've received robodebt notices, and every day we continue to receive phone calls from recipients of robodebt letters, and we help them to figure out what the best course of action is on a case-by-case basis.
Victoria Legal Aid is preparing 2 legal challenges to the robodebt regime. Rowan McRae is its executive director.
We're asking a court to scrutinise the scheme and determine whether or not it is in fact lawful. We know it's unfair. We know it's having a terrible impact on our clients. But we also think the scheme is unlawful and we'd like a court to test that.
It's extremely stressful, and especially when you can't prove that you don't have any debt, you have no power, and yet they're still pursuing the debts. I just think that it's wrong.
Hi, I'm Lee Sales. Thanks for watching this story. If you'd like to watch more of 730's stories, they are on the left of your screen. And tap on the button below to subscribe and get the latest from ABC News.